All right, let's talk worst quarterbacks. So, listen, to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, you have to be a pretty good quarterback. You have to have some good traits, so there's no bad starting level quarterbacks, right? That being said, it's still an interesting discussion to have. So, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to break down, first off, the way I have to do this is these are guys I am expecting to start in the NFL. I'm not doing who I think I would start, just who I'm predicting to start, and then I'm going to put down, just rank who I think the worst are, starting from the 10th worst and going to number 1. So, yeah, let's just get into it. Starting off at number 10, I'm going Anthony Richardson, there's kind of two guys at the bottom of this list that I don't want to make it seem like I'm too harsh on these players, or like I'm negative towards these players. It's worth mentioning, the 10th worst quarterback is the 23rd best quarterback, right? So, to me, Richardson's just a projection. That's the only reason why he makes the list. Again, you think about the guys who I decided to just leave off the list. It was like Drake May and Caleb Williams, who were prospects I did like more coming out of college. And then, like, guys like Derek Carr and Geno Smith, who are, established players. So, because of that, Richardson makes the list. But again, I don't want to make this seem like I think he's a bad player or anything like that. Just a complete projection. It looked good in a handful of games last year for the Colts, but I want to see more. Number 9 is Jayden Daniels, who's essentially the same thing, complete projection. Plenty of things to like about his game, but as of right now, I do think he's a little bit more NFL ready than some of the other young quarterbacks, which is why he's not high up on the list or anything like that. It just, again, it probably will take some time to develop at the NFL level, so he's here at 9. Number 8, Russell Wilson does make my list, which I'm sure will be upsetting for some Steelers fans, but again, it's not that he's a terrible quarterback or anything, but I thought he was solid last year. Maybe I don't know if I was quite as high on him as some other players were, as some other people were, which is why I put him on this list. He still did have his low moments last year, I thought, but as a whole, is a solid, consistent quarterback. There is value in that, and for his contract, it's pretty good value. But there's other quarterbacks I like better. It's him versus Geno Smith. I thought Geno Smith was better last year, so that's why Russell Wilson makes the list. Number 7 is Daniel Jones, who, to some degree, the criticism of Daniel Jones has gone a little far. The contract was stupid. We all know the contract was stupid. It was a bad job. It made no sense at the time, made even less sense now, but still, there is some redeemable traits in Daniel Jones. He's not like a complete garbage quarterback. His mobility is a very real, positive factor, and I think he can run an offense when it's one there, and you could even say hasn't had the best guys to throw to. That might make him look worse. That being said, he still isn't a great quarterback, and when you factor in he's kind of constantly banged up, I think he has to make the list. Number 6, we all love Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is fun, and hey, for the Raiders, they weren't able to draft a guy, put Gardner Minshew out there, see how it works. I don't know if he'll be the starter. I would lean towards that. I'm sure, when I look at Raiders fans, it feels like a lot say, yes, Minshew is 100% going to be the starter, and a lot say, yes, Aiden O'Connell is 100% going to be the starter. Again, we won't officially know until, at the end of preseason. My prediction is that they might say O'Connell is the guy. They might say Minshew is the guy heading into the preseason, but I think Minshew will win the job preseason. He'll come in and he'll play all right, which is usually what happens with Gardner Minshew. Doesn't quite have the physical traits to be a high-end starter in the NFL, but at least it gives you a solid floor. Number 5, I went with J.J. McCarthy, who, again, he's a rookie quarterback. It's going to take him some time to develop. He's in a pretty decent situation to develop, which is nice. I don't think he's a complete, project the way some other people might be, but I also don't know if he's giving you the plus that a Drake May or a Jayden Daniels can give you right away, even though I like McCarthy better than Daniels as a prospect coming out of college. I just think that, Daniels can use his legs to kind of work right away as he develops the other stuff. McCarthy can move around as well, but, it's not quite the same. So that's why I have him here at 5. Number 4, I'm going to Deshaun Watson, which, listen, it is what it is. I feel like when I look at other people's lists, they have him kind of middle of the pack, and it seems like a lot of people are saying, well, if he can stay healthy, then they'll be okay. Staying healthy has not been his only issue. He hasn't looked good when he's been out there. The Browns went with Joe Flacco towards the end of last season and didn't really look significantly worse, in my opinion. I thought they kind of looked as good as they had looked all year. When you're, to be quite frankly, I think Flacco was the better quarterback last year. So when a guy who you're just citing off the street is outperforming, you're a low end starter. Now, obviously, Watson has had a history of being a very high end starter at the NFL level. The question is just, can he get back to it? And the answer is maybe. It legitimately is. But until I see him do that, I'm going to continue to put him low on my rankings, right? What have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? For Watson, not that much. Number 3, Will Levis, which, again, part of this is just my college evaluation, which I was not very high on Will Levis. I didn't have a first-round grade on him, and then he didn't go in the first round. Although, I will say, did really show some flashes in year 1. So, for me, I'm not someone who is particularly high on him. I saw a guy who, not a great prospect who showed some flashes. I'm not going to sell the farm for it, but if you were someone who liked Levis and had a high evaluation on him, you're probably going to put him a lot higher on your own personal list. It's again, he is a projection guy, which I didn't project much coming out of college, so I'm not projecting much now, but definitely could be wrong. Number 2 is Bo Nix. Bo Nix makes my list at number 2. Was the 6th quarterback taken, but was taken 12th overall. So was, still a valued prospect by the Broncos, and I think could run that scheme pretty well. It's the Kenny Pickett thing, quite frankly, of is he a guy who was pretty good at running a scheme in college simply because he was older and therefore was, had more experience doing it, and now that he goes to the NFL level, what's his ceiling there, that kind of stuff. I can see a Kenny Pickett scenario emerging. Is it going to happen? I don't know. Maybe not. But again, for projections, I do put him at number 2. But number 1, I am going with the first overall pick of last year, Bryce Young. And that's not to say Bryce Young can't be successful or that I've given up on Bryce Young. In fact, I said if I was the Panthers, what I would do is I would try to get as many weapons as possible for the Panthers, and then, to help out Bryce Young and try to develop him. I still think that's the right strategy, but it just wasn't good last year. Yes, it was a bad situation, but Andy Dalton played okay in that bad situation, right? It was a bad situation, but he looked bad in it also. You can still evaluate a player in a bad situation, because I don't just look at box score numbers. I look at how he played. And while the box score numbers were atrocious, how he played wasn't great either. He would hardly be the first player to have an awful rookie year and then look really good year 2. But again, the number 1 indicator of future success is past success. And when he played as, quite frankly, poorly as he played last year, to me, it would be unfair to anyone else to put them at 32, or I guess at 1 in this case, when Bryce Young had the year he had last year. That's just how I view it. So, could be wrong. Some of these guys I'm sure I will be wrong about. I guarantee you 1 or 2 of these guys wound up having really good years. But, one year I had Geno Smith as my worst starting quarterback at the NFL level, and then he ended up playing pretty well for the Seahawks. So, yeah, that's my list. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from y'all. And, of course, as always, thanks for watching.